In this video, you're going to learn about the risk that African values and African cultures are undergoing and how the survival of these values are very critical. We've been displaced here and there from our countries of birth in search of work, in search of a good life, but to the expense of what? We've lost a lot, and we really need to rethink the way we are bringing up ourselves and our kids. Here in Canada, despite the freedom argument of a human, African and Black Canadians are still facing discrimination, systemic racism, and this is leading to a decrease of consciousness into our community. Many have lost their self-esteem of who they are. One of many problems Africans are facing and have trouble dealing with is keeping the culture and value in these countries of exile. There are so many factors that contribute to that. I know how complex our culture is and the differences from countries in Africa, but I know these cultures, these values are similar when it comes to knowledge, belief, written and unwritten laws, or any other capability, and the habits that we have as an African. We've been acquiring these capabilities from our ancestors, and we know that they are very important for us. They are very important for our generation and the generation to come. That's what made us who we are today. If we are surviving, if we are what we are today, is because of these values that we are now taking for granted. If you ever ask the African American, African descent about their value and cultures and the linkage to the African community, they will tell you how much they wish it was passed on to them. And now we have a big difference between what they consider value vis-a-vis of new migrated immigrants, mostly from Africa. What if they were allowed to practice their culture and value? Will they have the same value that we have? We all know that the system never wanted them to be or to know about themselves. In contrast, we have all the opportunity to learn and preserve the culture. Mostly for those who come from Africa and they still remember some of these values, we have all we need to preserve them. But are we doing that? The system is forcing us to adopt someone's language, someone's culture. Africans are lingering in the middle of conservatism and simulation. The system of the dominant culture, the language, and the value are privileged in every situation, at school, at work, in our daily life, in every step that you take from this country. Thus, many are deciding to adopt the belief by denying who they truly are, their genealogy, their culture linkage with the African is fading away. The effect of this matter is doubting our ability and cultivating a negative self-esteem into ourselves and the new generation to come. Many immigrants have fallen into the same trap with no choice than accepting what is given as true knowledge. Just think about the IQ test itself. It's going to tell you how these values are being favored than other values, mostly of immigrants and people who come from different countries. The test at school, they have most 40-something% of the dominant value, things that they learn from home before they even go to school. We're coming in one step low. How are we going to keep up? How are we going to insert and instill these values to our kids so that they can have the self-esteem to go out and do something. Africans on the continent are not even spared. Globalization and the new information technology has brought the world closer than before. Now, voluntarily, new behavior is being learned, leading many into moral disruption, and only few people understand that we are on a wrong path. The diaspora is trying to coexist and assimilate into the new culture as a means to bypass the systemic racism. To get a better job or a good recognition, some of us need to bypass these values. Ignore my value. I'm just going to grab on this and see if things are going to work. All this to the expense of our own value and culture. Keeping your value is not a thing of the past. You need to think about that. We know how much African changes once they get here. We change a lot. We want to change, but let's change for the good. Let's make the good changes and leave alone the worst one. Maybe get rid of those unnecessary cultures that people looked at and generalize our value and belief as something primitive that we need to give up. Those rituals that prove to be unhelpful, let's put them away. So there's nothing harmful than trying to be someone you are not, trying to deny your true self. That's very, very dangerous. Here the choices are very limited. We can only try harder to fit into the system, or else you'll find yourself on the street. You'll find yourself with no valued education that can take you from point A to point B. You know what? You can blend into your new culture and keep your value. You can coexist in your new country. But by being you, you don't have to change. You don't have to change your whole being, your whole value destroyed, your whole culture being thrown away because you want to coexist with others. Telling story. Since when did you stop and tell your kid a story? Our means of communication, our means of passing the information to one person to the others. It's about talking. It's about making the knowledge out so other people can learn it. That's what we need to do. That's one of our values. Do we do that? Are we still doing that? When you keep your language and pass it on, when you come together for a community cause, when you tell your kids and others how great Africans once were, look at the wonders of Egypt and see the great pharaohs and all these things that happened before. You passing on the knowledge that we once were very strong, smart, and skillful. We are trying to deny all that, and now we are adopting the new culture. If you don't know where you're coming from, you won't know where you're going. A problem is better solved when you understand the root cause of the problem. If you don't know what is the problem, how are you going to find the answer? That's very hard. We all say we are discriminated. But do you know why you're discriminated? And many people assume it's because we will have a dark skin that we discriminated. No, we need to know exactly what's the problem. Why are we discriminated? Maybe once you discover that, you're gonna be a little twice smarter and do better. Day after day, after you assimilate into your new culture, you'll find yourself adopting new habits. These new habits piles up, they pile up, and slowly makes your new customs. This new custom becomes your new worldview. You see the world into these activities that you live day by day. Some of the people here, they live day by day by visiting the restaurant, the bars, and this other place, and many other gather, they cook, they share food. Everybody has their own way of living and viewing life and the way we define it. Some of the old habits that you have, once acquiring all this new, they will disappear. And once these habits disappear, what's going to happen? They'll be replaced with the new ones. But make sure when you replace this habit, they are not your most important values that you're replacing with what you don't know. You need to know better. Your presence today proves that this value works. If the values, cultures of our ancestors didn't work, then we will not be here today. We will not exist. We will not be alive. We'll be extinct. But because these values were meaningful and they really worked, that's why we still find our genes reproducing till to the generation that we have today. They are the foundation of the world view. This world view distinguishes you and me from everyone else. And they make me unique. They make you unique. They make you visible. When you put in your cultural cloth and your costume, let me say, wherever designer is, you're being viewed by people. Wow, that person must be from somewhere. When you eat your local food, people say, wow, that food is from this place. When you speak that language, people say, wow, he's from this place. And this makes you different than everybody else. And many other values that we really need to keep and protect so that we can survive. What are these values that we need to keep? First, I know that your family values are very important and need to be passed on from this generation to the next generation, and they are to be kept. Ignoring them is carrying the link. It's erasing your existence on this planet. Let me give you an example of that. In African communities, everybody has high regard for the family and its value. When trouble comes, the family members defend and protect each other. We have seen this in the diaspora. When one of us passes away, we rally to help. We don't just sit and pretend it's their family. Well, you all know in Africa, it's not about me, it's about us. Family matters more than an individual. Family makes up a community, and the community makes up a kingdom. And family that has no value or culture is a dying family. It's not a family that is going to live longer. You need to have your Afrocentricity approach. Let's be responsible.